Maha-Bharata, second part, chapter 28, Massacre at Night. Scene 1, immediately after leaving the battlefield. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. After leaving the battlefield, the Pandavas went to the camp of Duryodhana, as was the custom, to seek the spoils of war. But they found it deserted, except for a few servants. They rode in their chariots up to Duryodhana's royal tent and dismounted. And as Arjuna was about to climb down from his chariot, Krishna spoke. O Partha, take your Gandiva and your 2 quivers. I will get down after you. Arjuna looked curiously at Krishna, but did as Krishna requested. After he got down, Krishna jumped clear of the chariot, and at that exact moment, Hanuman left the flag banner and vanished. As Hanuman did so, the chariot suddenly caught fire without any apparent cause. In moments, it was a pile of ashes. All the 5 Pandavas gazed in amazement at the charred and smoldering remains. Arjuna asked Krishna what had happened. O Vijaya, the chariot was struck by the most powerful celestial weapons, and only because of my presence was it not previously incinerated. Then Krishna went over to Yudhishthira, embracing him with a smile. O King, by good fortune you have gained victory, and by good fortune also you and all of your brothers are now well. So do what should be done now to rule this earth. Placing an arm around Arjuna's shoulder, Krishna continued. O Ajatashatru, previously this Dhananjaya, your brother, greeted me when I came to Virata, offering me worship and love. He said, O Keshava, you are my brother and friend. Indeed, you are the Lord of my life. Therefore, you should always protect me. And I responded, Tatastu, let it be. So now you see I have kept my word. Tears now fell from the Pandavas' eyes as Krishna spoke. In a choked voice, Yudhishthira replied, O Janardhan, surely we owe our lives, wealth, and kingdom to you only. Everything is due to your favor. Who but you could have withstood the weapons of Bhishma, Drona, and Karna? Only because of your protection was Arjuna able to defeat so many invincible heroes. And the great Rishi Vyasadeva told me that wherever you are, there will always be righteousness and victory. Krishna smiled. With an arm around Yudhishthira and the other arm around Arjuna, Keshava entered Duryodhana's tent, followed by the other Pandavas. The empty tent resembled a city devoid of festivities. Duryodhana's golden throne looked desolate. It was surrounded by his counselors' seats. Those fine cushions had formerly been occupied by the Kuru chiefs in their silk robes and golden ornaments. But now they looked like abandoned mansions. As the Pandavas moved through the tent, they came upon Yuyutsu. He was Dhritarashtra's only surviving son. Filled with sorrow and realizing that the responsibility of leadership had now fallen to him, Yuyutsu sat pondering what he should do. Seeing that the Pandavas had arrived, Yuyutsu stood and offered them respects. Yudhishthir embraced Yuyutsu and spoke gentle words of consolation. Ajatashatru told Yuyutsu that he should return to Hastinapur and comfort his father and Gandhari, who would surely be overpowered by unbearable grief. Yuyutsu bowed to Yudhishthir and left the tent. Mounting his chariot, Yuyutsu left at once, making his way to Hastinapur along the moonlit forest paths. In one huge section of the royal tent, the Pandavas found the immense wealth Duryodhana had brought from Hastinapur. Gold, silver, jewels, pearls, rich ornaments, blankets, and skins lay in heaps on the floor made up of rugs. After loading the wealth onto their chariots, the Pandavas rested for a while on the many silk-covered couches in the tent. As evening wore on, Krishna spoke to Yudhishthir. "O king, in accord with sacred tradition, you and your brothers should remain here for the first night after victory. The rest of the army may return to our camp." Agreeing with Krishna, Yudhishthir told his men to return to camp and take rest, while he and his brothers remained there in Duryodhana's tent. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Scene 2. Krishna consoles Gandhari and Dhritarashtra. After the warriors left, Yudhishthir spoke again with Krishna. He wanted Krishna to be the first among his party to meet Gandhari in Hastinapur. Yudhishthir feared her ascetic powers. Revealing his anxiety, Yudhishthir said, "O Keshava, when the pious queen hears how Bhima has slain her son, surely she will release the fire of her anger. Why, she could destroy the three worlds with her accumulated ascetic powers. That most blessed lady is always engaged in severe austerities. I fear she will reduce us to ashes when she learns what has happened. O Krishna, I think only you are capable of pacifying Gandhari. Eternal and possessed of unfading glories, you, Krishna, are the creator and destroyer of everything. And so, with reasonable arguments, you should remove her anger, my dear Madhava." Hearing his anxious request, Krishna turned to Daruka, ordering him to prepare his chariot. Krishna then left for Hastinapur. Arriving at sunrise, Krishna went straight to Dhritarashtra's palace, where he first encountered Vyasdev. Krishna immediately offered prostrated obeisances, clasping the rishi's feet. Then Krishna went with Vyasadeva into Dhritarashtra's chamber. The blind king sat silent with Gandhari by his side. Having been announced by Vyas, Krishna went over and took Dhritarashtra's hand. Krishna wept openly for some time without saying a thing. Then Krishna washed his eyes and face with cool water fetched by a servant. Still holding on to Dhritarashtra's hand, Keshava said gently, "O Bharata monarch, you know everything, past and future. You are well aware of the course of inevitable time. All that is brought into being will again be destroyed in due course. This no one can change. O king, out of respect for you, the Pandavas repeatedly tried to make peace in order to prevent the destruction we have all now witnessed. The virtuous Yudhishthira tolerated all kinds of suffering, even going into exile and living in concealment. He and his brothers endured all kinds of miseries as if helpless, hoping that peace could be maintained. Krishna looked around Dhritarashtra's chamber. The first rays of the sun were shining through the lattices, picking out the numerous empty seats around the hall. Curls of smoke coming from burning incense were caught in the bright beams of the sunlight. And from outside in the palace gardens, the sounds of various birds could be heard. The sweet sounds contrasted with the rising and falling cries of women in the palace's inner apartments, wailing for their slain husbands and sons. And seated at the king's side, Krishna continued, O mighty one, O son of Vyas, remembering all of this and how you caused it, do not harbor any ill feelings towards the Pandavas. You know of Yudhishthira's devotion for you. Now he is consumed with grief, feeling responsible himself for the death of all of his kinsmen. And out of shame, Yudhishthira does not want to appear before you, although he shares your sorrow. Krishna then looked across at the blindfolded Gandhari, addressing her softly, O daughter of Subala, O lady of excellent vows, hear me when I say, there is no woman like you in this world. Do you recall how you reprimanded your sinful son when you told Duryodhan that victory follows righteousness? But he did not heed you. And now it has come to pass exactly as you have said. So knowing all of this, O auspicious queen, you should not grieve, and do not curse the Pandavas. Let not your heart be bent towards their destruction, for surely with your angry eyes you could annihilate the entire world if you so desired. From under the silk wrapper tied around Gandhari's eyes, tears flowed. She remained silent, unable to find her voice. Finally, she spoke. O Keshava, what you say is true. My mind is unhinged by grief. But upon hearing your words, I am pacified. O Janardhan, this old monarch has no more sons. You and the sons of Pandu are Dhritarashtra's only refuge now. Gandhari buried her face in a cloth, weeping out loud. Krishna consoled her and Dhritarashtra, speaking wisdom from the Vedas. After spending some time with them, Krishna rose. I will come to see you again. Pray, grant me leave now, so that I can return to the Pandavas. Both Gandhari and Dhritarashtra offered Krishna respects and gave him permission to leave. Krishna then left the chamber and met Daruka, ordering him to carry Krishna back to the Pandavas' camp. Being observed by thousands of cheering citizens who had heard of his arrival, Krishna swiftly went out of the northern gate back to Kurukshetra. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Scene 3. Duryodhana, before dying, installs Ashvathama as commander-in-chief. After the Pandavas had left Duryodhana, the 3 surviving Kauravas came out of hiding and went to see the fallen prince. Duryodhana looked like a gigantic shala tree felled by a storm. Covered in blood and breathing heavily, Duryodhana was obviously in excruciating pain. And all around him, carnivorous beasts ranged like men seeking wealth from a king. His brow was contracted with furrows of rage, and his eyes red with anger. Finding their king in such a condition, the 3 warriors got down quickly from their chariots and ran over to him. They cried out and fell to the ground by his side. Leaning on his elbows, Duryodhana half raised a hand in greeting. Ashvathama knelt in front of Duryodhana with tears streaming down his face. Truly there is nothing permanent in this world, O king, since we see you lying here on the cold earth covered with dust. You, who issued commands to all of the earth's rulers, are now reduced to this pitiable plight. Alas, where is Dushashan? Where is Shukuni? And where is Karna? What has happened? What has happened? Oh, surely it is difficult to know the ways of Yamaraj, the Lord of Karma, since you, O mighty Emperor, have been brought to such a deplorable state. Ashvathama, Kripa Acharya, and Kritavarma cried and rolled on the ground. The war had indeed taken a terrible toll on the world's Kshatriyas. And now the great Kuru leader was himself destroyed. Clearly, Duryodhana was on the verge of death. The war was over. The awful consequences of the long conflict, with detachment and callousness born of such a battle, finally struck home. They were the only survivors of the Kuru army. Most of their relatives and friends had all been slain. How could they continue to live on? And what would their women say? Ashvathama continued. Alas, this great king, who would trample on the heads of all other kings, now is eating dust. Witness the reverses time itself brings. Where is your pure white umbrella? O king, where are the yak-tail whisks and the countless servants? Where is your immense army? Without doubt, the prosperity of all mortals is unstable, since you, who were equal to Indradev, are now in this miserable condition. Grimacing in pain, Duryodhana rolled onto his side. Lifting his head from the ground, he replied in a strained voice,
All living beings are subject to death. The Creator has ordained it. Death has now come to me before all of you. But by good fortune, I have been killed in battle while I fought without showing my back. Struck down by a low blow from the mace of Bhima, I was finally killed by deceit. But by good luck, you three have survived. Do not grieve for me. If the Vedas are at all authoritative, then I have attained blissful regions. Yes, destiny, Daiva, is all-powerful. In accordance with my fate, I lie here, deprived of all opulence. Leave me be, for soon I will embrace death and rise up to the heavens. Duryodhan's head then fell back, and he sighed heavily. He thought of Krishna. Oh, there could be no doubt that Krishna was a most powerful personality of some sort, for only by Krishna's power and contrivances had the Pandavas been successful. Once again, Duryodhan wondered if Krishna might actually be the Supreme Lord. And if that were true, then Krishna's partiality towards the Pandavas surely seemed unbecoming. It was hard to comprehend. Then a spasm of pain racked his body, and Duryodhan cried out. "Ah!" Tears flowed down his face, and he slumped to the ground. Ashvathama ground his teeth, staring out into the distance. Still furious about the way his father had been killed, Ashvathama was even further incensed, hearing how Bhima had slain Duryodhan with an unfair blow. Breathing heavily, his eyes red with anger, Ashvathama boldly declared, "Listen to my words, O king, which I swear by truth itself and by all my acts of religion. Today, in Krishna's presence, I will dispatch the Pandavas to the abode of Yamaraj. O Lord, grant me your permission." And although racked with pain, somehow Duryodhan smiled and said, "O Kripa, quickly fetch me a pot of water. O preceptor, appoint Drona's son commander-in-chief of our army. Let the hostilities end with the death of our enemies." Kripa Acharya went to the lake and brought back a pot of water. After a short ceremony, Duryodhan installed Ashvathama as the Kaurava commander. Ashvathama then roared and mounted his chariot. Kripa Acharya and Kritavarma blew their kanchals and climbed onto their chariots. They knew that victory against the Pandavas was unlikely, but death at their hands would be preferable to living after the annihilation of all the other warriors. Krishna Tvadiya Padapankaja Pancharantam Adyaiva me Vishatu Manasa Rajahansa Prana Prayana Samayi Kapavata Pitai Kantavarodana Vidhau Smaranam Kutaste. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Tat Sat. Scene 4. Ashvathama's Owl Guru. Leaving the dying Duryodhan where he was laying, the three warriors, Ashvathama, Kripa Acharya, and Kritavarma, rode south through the darkness, their hearts aching with sorrow. Soon they reached a spot close to the Pandavas' camp. Entering a dense growth of trees, they dismounted and discussed their strategy. All three were exhausted, and so they slumped beneath the spreading boughs of a banyan tree. And they could hear the celebration sounds of the Pandava army. Deciding to challenge the warriors after sunrise, they said their evening prayers and lay down to sleep underneath the banyan tree. Kripa Acharya and Kritavarma fell asleep quickly, but Ashvathama was too angry to sleep. He stared up at the branches of the banyan tree, silhouetted against the moon. The sounds of bats and owls filled the air. Ashvathama tossed and turned, his mind filled with the thoughts of revenge. And as he looked up, he could see the dark bodies of thousands of crows sleeping on the branches of the tree. Suddenly, a great owl swooped down from the sky, its green eyes flashing and its talons extended. It descended onto the branches of the tree and silently began killing all the crows. Within minutes, it had slain many of the crows, which fell to the earth near Ashvathama. In fear, the other crows rose up, squawking and beating their wings as they flew away. Ashvathama began to reflect. Surely this was a sign from destiny. What better way to deal with a large number of foes than to catch them asleep? Although keen to fight, there was little chance Ashvathama and his two companions would overpower the Pandavas. But Ashvathama had promised Duryodhan to kill them. Although it was sinful to kill sleeping men, nevertheless it would be an appropriate end for them, since they themselves had resorted to so much deceit and trickery already during the 18 days of the war. So if there was to be any chance of success, there was no alternative but to attack them while they were sleeping, with their weapons put aside, believing that their enemies were defeated. Deciding finally to go at once into the Pandavas' camp, Ashvathama woke up the other two. They sat up and shook off their sleep, listening as Ashvathama explained his plans. And when he had finished speaking, they sat silently, filled with shame, unable to reply. Seeing this, Ashvathama defended his plan. We should not hesitate. Duryodhana has been slain unfairly, as was my father and the Kuru grandsire, Bhishma Dev. The Pandavas have not hesitated to use unfair or wicked tactics. So what need have we to discuss this any further? We are now the only survivors among all the Kauravas. If we do not attempt cunning, then we too will follow our comrades to the abode of death. Roaring in joy and beating their victory drums, The Pandavas have fallen into the embrace of sleep. This is our only chance to defeat them. Now, what do you say, O heroic men?" Kripa Acharya slowly shook his head and said, "There are two factors which influence the outcome of all actions. One is endeavor, but the other is daiva, destiny, the hand of God. Without both, there is no success. A man who does not work, but who depends upon destiny alone, will be ruined. Now, sometimes, however, despite one's best attempts, destiny delivers only adverse results. O Brahmana, we have tried our best, and we have not been successful. It is therefore clear that we are under the influence of adverse destiny." Foolish Duryodhana was moved only by covetousness, and so he acted without regard for virtue or with the advice of his elders. Thus, Suyodan has met with calamity, and we, his followers, have sunk into sorrow. So in my view, our best course now is to seek the shelter and advice of others. Let us go to Hastinapur and speak to Dhritarashtra and Vidura, for they will offer us wise counsel." Ashvathama slapped his leg. He looked down at the slain crows littering the ground. Overcome by anger and grief, Ashvathama could not accept Kripa's advice. He stood and paced back and forth, his hand clutching the hilt of his sword. His voice was cold and emotionless. The understandings of different men never agree. Everyone believes his own opinion to be right and that of others to be mistaken. And even then, the understanding of a man changes with shifting circumstances. So it is always difficult to ascertain one's best course. Therefore, by listening to wisdom and then acting in accordance with one's own understanding of virtue, one should then make his determination. So I am of the firm opinion that my plan is compatible with our duty as Kshatriyas. We should show no mercy to our enemies. We must destroy them by any means. Ashvathama made it clear that he would carry out his plan with or without the assistance of his two colleagues. Then his voice rose in pitch. "Like Indra killing the Danavas, I will range among the Panchalas and Pandavas. Ruthlessly cutting them down, I will repay the debt I owe my father. Today, the Pandavas will follow the path Drona Acharya has taken, and the path that was taken by all the other heroes they so treacherously killed. Then I will be happy, considering myself to have finally done my duty." Seeing Ashvathama's firm determination, Kripa Acharya replied, "By good luck do we see you so resolute. Clearly you cannot be dissuaded. With your heart bent on vengeance, I do not think even Indradev could withstand you in battle. Therefore, let us await dawn and then ride out for an encounter with the Pandavas. Kritavarma and I will accompany you. But for now, take off your armor and rest. Refreshed and renewed, you will surely conquer the enemy in honest warfare. So there is no need to adopt any foul tactics which will only incur the censure of all men. No, I disagree. My mind is fixed on this dark plan, and there is no question of waiting until tomorrow. I will now arouse my sleeping horses, for my heart is afflicted with desire and my mind filled with thoughts of vengeance. I cannot even sleep. Thinking of my father's death, I am without any peace. Indeed, I will not rest until Drishtadyumna has paid the full price of his heinous actions. O twice-born Kripa, how can a person like me even live while that Panchala prince still breathes? How can any of us rest while our king cries in agony, lying on the ground, his thighs broken by that wicked Bhimasena? We will not be able to gain victory on the battlefield against the Pandavas, being protected as they are by Krishna. No, let us kill them while they sleep. This is the only way we can achieve our cherished end. Kripa Acharya watched with dismay as Ashvathama yoked his horses to his chariot. His face was set in hard lines, picked out by the dancing rays of the moonlight coming through the branches of the banyan tree. Kripa tried again to dissuade Drona's son. My dear nephew, think hard before you do this. Only a sinful person would even contemplate what you propose. Have you lost all sight of righteousness? Surely one who does not control the senses cannot understand morality, even if he serves learned superiors, just as a wooden spoon cannot taste the soup. A humble man, however, with senses in check, can immediately understand his duties when he serves his elders, just like the tongue tasting the soup. As your well-wisher, I am trying my best to restrain you from something that will result only in your own condemnation, and which will leave you repenting long afterwards. You are celebrated in this world as a great warrior, so do not attempt to destroy your good reputation, and do not sink into a limitless hell by killing sleeping men who are as good as dead already. Fight fairly and win everlasting fame. Yes, we will help you without doubt. O mighty armed Ashvathama, this is my opinion. Ashvathama mounted his chariot and then looked down at Kripa Acharya. My dear uncle, what you say is true, but in my opinion it is most fitting that the Pandavas meet such an end, for they have acted heinously themselves, and they deserve no mercy now. I cannot stand the thought of Duryodhan lying there in agony on the ground, and I also cannot stand the thought of those wicked Panchalas sleeping in peace after their sinful slaughter of my father. Having killed those vile men, I do not care if I am born as a worm or as an insect in my next birth. You cannot frustrate my resolution. I am going with or without you. Kripa Acharya and Kritavarma looked at each other and simply shook their heads. They could understand they could not stop Ashvathama in his determination. It seemed to them as if destiny had ordained that the final act of the war would be played out that evening. They were the only surviving Kauravas, and Ashvathama was their commander. Considering this, both men finally agreed to accompany Ashvathama. If there was to be a fight, then it was their duty to assist him. They had already committed themselves to Duryodhana's cause, killing countless warriors on the enemy's side already. So there was no point now in abandoning the fight when the last hope of the Kauravas depended upon them. So they resigned themselves, yoked their chariots, and followed Ashvathama, who had by this time already driven away. Namo Maha-Bharata Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goratveshe Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Scene 5. Ashvathama gets empowered. And as he approached the northern gate of the Pandavas' camp, Ashvathama saw before him a strange being with a blood-soaked tiger skin wrapped around his loins. His upper garment was a black deerskin, and he had a large snake draped around his shoulders as a sacred thread. Around his biceps, he wore 2 snakes as armlets, and in his hands he held fierce-looking weapons. His mouth seemed ablaze, and in his fearful face he had 100 eyes. Seeing this terrible being, Ashvathama, who was beyond any fear, raised his bow and shot numerous celestial weapons at the being. But the strange being absorbed them all and stood there unaffected. Ashvathama released a long steel dart which flew like a blazing comet towards the strange being, only to shatter it into pieces when it struck him. Drona's son then hurled his scimitar and then his mace, but those weapons were also absorbed into the strange being's body. Having thus exhausted his weapons, Ashvathama saw that the strange being was still standing before him. Ashvathama sensed it must be Lord Shiva, whom he had worshipped throughout his whole life. Only that unlimited deity could have withstood his most powerful attack. Ashvathama then threw down his weapons and jumped from his chariot. Trembling, he knelt before the god. Surely Ashvathama should have heeded Kripa Acharya's admonition. Now, the most powerful Mahadev, no doubt protecting the Pandavas on Krishna's order, would kill Ashvathama because of his sinful intentions. Bowing his head to the ground, Ashvathama offered numerous prayers to the powerful divinity. After praying and supplicating Lord Shiva for some time, that powerful Mahadev spoke in a thunderous voice. "O child, all throughout this war, I have protected Pandu's sons. Out of my love for Krishna, I am always inclined to Krishna's worshippers. But now the Pandava warriors are being assailed by inevitable time itself. They have carried out the desires and plan of supreme providence, freeing the world of its great burden. Now their own destined end is near. O son of Drona, it is ordained that you should be the instrument of their destruction. I will empower you. Now take the sword and use it to slay the remaining Pandava troops. Lord Shiva then held out a great sword, which shone brilliantly and which had a handle set with bright gems. After handing the sword to Ashvathama, Mahadev vanished from the spot. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna, Keshava, Krishna, Keshava, Krishna, Keshava, Pahimam.
Scene 6. Ashvathama's Payback Massacre. After Lord Shiva had disappeared, suddenly Ashvathama felt himself infused with tremendous energy. His body seemed to burn with power, and his eyes glowed. And as he remounted his chariot and moved towards the entrance of the Pandavas' camp, both Kripa Acharya and Kritavarma caught up with Ashvathama. He was overjoyed to see them, that they were now joining him. Without telling them of the episode with Mahadev, which had almost seemed to be a dream, Ashvathama said, "O heroes, it is good that you have remembered your duties. We will now end this conflict by slaying the wicked Pandavas. I will enter their camp and range about like Yamaraj himself, while you two should remain outside just in case anyone tries to escape. And if they do, slay them." After the plan had been agreed upon, Ashvathama went quietly towards the camp. Clutching Lord Shiva's effulgent sword, Ashvathama got down from his chariot and leaped over the surrounding wall. Guided by signs, he stealthily made his way to Drishtadyumna's tent. The whole camp was silent and still. The exhausted warriors sunk in sleep. Ashvathama carefully entered Drishtadyumna's tent and saw him lying in sleep on a rich silken bed. Moving swiftly, Ashvathama kicked him. Drishtadyumna awoke and sat up. Ashvathama caught Drishtadyumna by the hair and dragged him out of bed, still kicking his head and chest. Drishtadyumna, surprised and still half asleep, was unable to overpower his aggressor. Ashvathama threw him to the ground, stomping on his neck. Drishtadyumna tried to tear at his attacker with his nails, and he cried out, "Oh, Ashvathama, kill me with a weapon! Let me thus, through you, reached the blessed regions reserved for those who die in battle. Ha 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 ha! You wretch! There is no bliss for those who kill their preceptors, nor do you deserve a warrior's death. I will slay you like the animal that you are. Ashvathama repeatedly stomped on Drishtadyumna with the heel of his foot, killing him mercilessly. Hearing the cries of the Panchala prince, the guards and women who were in the tent came out running. Ashvathama left the tent quickly, looking for the Pandavas themselves. Coming next to a large tent close to Drishtadyumna, he guessed that he had found them. The tent was decorated with numerous flags and garlands, and had the finest of golden chariots standing nearby. Ashvathama entered, and going into the inner section of the tent, saw 5 warriors asleep next to each other. Now Ashvathama felt a surge of joy. Here were the 5 brothers. Now raising his sword, Ashvathama brought it down on the first of the 5 men and killed him with one stroke. Similarly, he then killed the other 4 before anyone awoke. Outside the tent, Ashvathama could hear the clamor of the warriors looking for him. He rushed out with his fearful sword raised high, roaring like an infuriated lion. Seeing Ashvathama advance like death personified, with his sword dripping with blood, the warriors fell back in fear. But Ashvathama ran after them, slaughtering them just as a lion kills a deer in the forest. Quickly putting on their armor, other Kshatriyas came out of their tents and surrounded Ashvathama. But charged with Lord Shiva's power and filled with his own wrath, Ashvathama quickly slew those Kshatriyas. He then rushed into the next tent and found Uttamauja just rising from bed, surprised by the clamor he heard outside. Ashvathama ran over and killed him, killing him in the same way as he had killed Drishtadyumna. Ashvathama then encountered Yudamanyu, who rushed at Ashvathama whirling a mace. Yudamanyu struck Ashvathama full on the chest, but Drona's son was not affected in the least. Now seizing his assailant, Ashvathama threw him to the ground and killed him with powerful kicks and punches. Numerous other warriors attacked Ashvathama, but they were all savagely slain. Relentlessly hacking at the Pandava troops with his celestial sword, Ashvathama slew many while they lay on their beds, and hundreds of others who tried to resist him with weapons. Possessed by a frenzy of anger and bloodlust, Ashvathama moved throughout the camp, killing every warrior he would encounter. And as the piteous cries of the women filled the air, Ashvathama went swiftly throughout the encampment, leaving a trail of death behind him. Caught unawares and shocked by Ashvathama's intensity and power, no one among the Pandava forces could resist him. Covered in blood and screaming out his battle cry, Ashvathama seemed like the mighty Yamaraj, bent on killing all creatures. Ashvathama slew all of the surviving warriors. Like an elephant crushing lotuses in a lake, Ashvathama moved about with his flashing sword, resisting all attempts to check him. And many invisible Rakshasas flew around the camp, filled with joy to see so many corpses pouring forth fresh blood. Then, terrible cries resounded, mixing with the frightful howls of thousands of jackals. Horses and elephants, terror-stricken, ran about wildly. Confused warriors came out of their quarters and looked around in the darkness to see what was happening. Seeing Ashvathama hurling his bloodied sword, many of them mounted horses and sped towards the camp's gates. Others ran on foot trying to escape. But as the men left the camp, Kripa Acharya and Kritavarma met them and killed them all. Having no weapons, with disheveled hair and garments, and crying in fear, they were all cruelly butchered, even as they fled, crying out for mercy. Abandoning their shame, Kripa and Kritavarma killed every last man they could find. Then they set fire to the tents. Men dashed about in confusion and terror, and were cut down ruthlessly by the 3 Kaurava warriors. Calling out for the Pandavas, they fell to the earth, cut to pieces by the weapons of the 3 Kauravas. As twilight approached, Ashvathama, seeing that no warriors had survived his rampage, decided now to leave. Drenched in blood, and with his sword seeming to be like a grotesque extension of his arm, Ashvathama appeared dreadful. Having slaughtered all the Panchala and Pandava troops, Ashvathama felt that he had now avenged the death of his father, Drona Acharya. And once again, the camp was silent. The women and the few servants who had not been killed were struck dumb with grief and terror. They hid themselves as Drona's son left again by the northern gate. His 2 companions were now waiting for him, and when they informed Ashvathama that no one had escaped, Ashvathama praised them. Asato ma sadgamaha tamasi ma jyotirgamaha mrito ma amrita gamaha utishta jagrata prapya varani bodhat sharasya dara nishita duratyaya durgang pathastat kavayo vadanti. Jeev jago, Gora Chand bole, Kota Nidra jao maya, Pishachira kole, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Scene 7. The utterly disappointing death of Duryodhana. After mounting his chariot, Ashvathama considered how best to inform Duryodhana. He wanted to cheer the defeated prince before his death, but Duryodhana would hardly be able to believe that the Pandavas and all their troops had been slain. Ashvathama thought that he should show Duryodhana the heads of the Pandavas. That would convince him. Swiftly he rode back into the Pandavas' camp, and going quickly into the tent where the 5 dead brothers lay, Ashvathama took out his sword to sever their heads. The first gleams of dawn were entering the tent, and as he approached the bodies, Ashvathama realized with dismay that these were not the Pandavas at all. These were the 5 sons of Draupadi. The Pandavas must not have been present, since no warrior in the camp had escaped. Ashvathama's sword dropped to his side. Deeply disappointed, he wondered what to do. After some thinking, he decided to take the 5 heads anyway and convince Duryodhan that they were in fact the Pandavas. At least in that way, he could bring some happiness to the fallen Kuru leader before he died. Ashvathama took the 5 heads and placed them on his chariot, then drove out of the camp towards where Duryodhan lay. The sun had just risen as Ashvathama's party reached. The 3 men saw Duryodhan lying, surrounded by carnivorous beasts. He was pale and clearly on the verge of death. With difficulty, he tried to scare away the wolves and hyenas who kept coming up to him. Ashvathama then leaped down from his chariot, and after chasing the beasts away, knelt before Duryodhan. Kripa Acharya also got down and stood by the side of the dying prince. Ashvathama addressed Duryodhan in a most sorrowful voice. "Oh, surely nothing is difficult for destiny to achieve. See how this once great king now lies here. He who would walk on the heads of all other kings now lies in the dust, struck down by the foe, bathed in blood. And his golden mace, so very dear to him, lies by his side, like a faithful chaste wife by the side of her husband. He who was formerly attended by brahmanas seeking wealth is now attended by vicious beasts and birds seeking to eat his flesh. Oh, witness the reverses brought about by cruel time. But I do have good news, O Prince. The Pandavas and their warriors have all been slain. I have killed them all. Just see here the heads of those 5 brothers, my dear king." And as Ashvathama climbed onto his chariot to fetch the heads, Duryodhan opened his eyes and sat up, leaning on his elbows. "Oh, son of Drona, you have accomplished what not even Bhishma, Karna, or even your own father could achieve. Oh, this has filled me with so much happiness. Now I can go to the heavens, where we will all meet once again." Ashvathama then came down from his chariot, holding the 5 heads by the hair. He placed them by the side of Duryodhan and said, "Now, here are your sworn enemies, my king." Duryodhan reached over and felt the heads. He found it hard to believe that they could be the Pandavas. They looked like them, but perhaps they were their sons. Duryodhan knew how to tell the difference. He squeezed the skulls with his powerful hands, exerting the very last of his strength. And as he did so, the heads collapsed. Now he could understand these were not the heads of the Pandavas, rather the heads of their teenage sons. Duryodhan fell to the ground with a sigh. "These are the sons of Draupadi, my dear Brahmana, not the Pandavas. The heads of those 5 heroes are as hard as iron. But you can see I have easily crushed these heads, even in this weakened condition. Alas, what a terrible act you have performed! These boys were to be the future hope of the Kuru dynasty. Now, everything is lost. No, no, no!
Duryodhan just lay there lamenting, his eyes closed in pain. Although he hated the Pandavas, he was not pleased to see their sons murdered. For who now would carry on what was, after all, his own family line? All of his own brothers were dead, and now, by killing Draupadi's sons, Ashvathama had practically ended the Kuru dynasty. Alas! 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 Then Duryodhan gave up his life. His head slumped to the side as his last breath came out. The 3 Kauravas cried out in distress. But seeing that Duryodhan had died in acute disappointment, rather than the joy for which he had hoped, Ashvathama immediately felt remorseful. After gazing with tear-filled eyes at the king for some time, the 3 men built a large funeral pyre. Placing the dead body upon it, they recited prayers and carried out Duryodhan's last rites, sprinkling his body with sacred water fetched from the Ganga. They then torched the pyre and wailed in grief as the fire consumed Duryodhan's dead body. When the flames expired, Kripa Acharya gathered up the last remnants of the body and carried them to the river, placing them in the water, chanting Vedic mantras. Having thus completed the rituals, the 3 warriors mounted their chariots and set off in silence towards Hastinapur. Namaste Narasimhaya Prahlad Ahlad Dayane Hiranya Kashi Purvaksha Shilatanka Nakalai Ito Narsingha Parato Narsingho Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsingha Bahi Narsingho Hridayi Narsingho Narsingham Adim Sharanang Prapadi Abakara Kamala Bare Nakham Adbhuta Sringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavadrita Narahadi Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Keshavadrita Narsingha Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha, Jaya Jagadisha, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Shri Nrsimha, Jai Nrsimha, Jai Jaya Nrsimha. Prahlada Isha, Jaya Padma, Mukha Padma Vringa. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Purushaya Mahatmane Haraye Adbhuta Singhaya Brahmane Param Atmane. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.